Hi, my name is Kelsey Holt, and today I'm going to be presenting my slideshow about my evaluation for the Hope House. All right, so to start, just to give you a little overview of the Hope House, the Hope House is based out of the Memphis area, and it serves individuals and families that have been affected by HIV and AIDS. It has quite a few services and programs that it offers for the individual who has tested positive. Um, Such as services that surround trauma, mental health services, emergency services, such as housing, clothing, food, things like that. Life skills training for educational and job purposes. There is also testing that can be done for HIV through the Hope House. They offer also have outreach and awareness programs, as one of their goals is to bring more awareness about their services and about HIV and AIDS to the Memphis area. The Hope House also has a daycare program for early education and early childhood development. So, this program is specifically for children who have a diagnosis of HIV or AIDS or whose direct caregiver has a diagnosis of HIV or AIDS. And just a little statistic for you. In 2019, there were 6,297 people in Memphis that were living with HIV. So when you are looking at the Hope House website, one of the things I found, which was under the How We Serve tab on their website, I found a statement that said one of the many ways we can find hope in their lives, their meaning the clients, is by working towards self-sufficiency. And they have two programs that were specifically geared towards helping clients achieve self sufficiency. And those programs were the Self Sufficiency Group and Getting Ahead in a Just Getting By World. So that just kind of caught my eye. And so that is kind of the program goal that I have decided to evaluate as to see, how or if they are helping clients that they serve achieve self-sufficiency, or if clients feel that they are achieving self-sufficiency. So the two variables that I have tested from the evaluation for the Hope House was, to what extent do you consider your life meaningful? And this question had choices that range from not at all to an extreme amount. There were 5 choices. And my second variable is, how satisfied are you with your personal relationships? And the choices for this questions range from very satisfied to very dissatisfied. So just to kind of start here, I did just go ahead and hypothesize that when I ran my test for these two variables, that there would absolutely be a statistically significant relationship. Actually, I thought that this was kind of a duh, if you will. That's not great terminology, but that of course there's going to be statistical significance there. I'm looking at those two variables. So the test that I decided to run was the chi-square test, because I wanted to know if there is a relationship between my two variables. So if there's something statistically significant between those two variables. So that's why I chose the chi-square test, because that is what that test does. It tests and looks for a relationship between variables. Since both of my variables are ordinal, because the responses pertain to emotions and not mathematical notations or equations, which is what ordinal is. That is another reason that I chose the chi-square test. Having two ordinal variables coordinates better with the chi-square test than it does some of the other tests, or the 3 others. So I'm just going to go over a couple things before I get to my results for the chi-square test. But for my first variable, which was, how satisfied are you with your personal relationships, there were 18.2% of the participants reported feeling very dissatisfied with personal relationships. Another 18.2% reported feeling just dissatisfied. Another 18.2% reported feeling neither satisfied or dissatisfied. 9.1% reported feeling satisfied, and then 36.4% reported feeling very satisfied with their personal relationships. So when you kind of take those first three categories, that those first three, which is about 18.2% for each response, that equaled up to about just over half of the participants kind of were either, I don't feel either way about my relationships, down to feeling very dissatisfied about my personal relationships. So my second variable, to what extent do you find your life meaningful? 9.1% of the participants reported feeling that their life is a little meaningful. 18.2 feeling a moderate amount of meaning in their life. 36.4 reported feeling very much meaning, and then another 36.4% reported feeling an extreme amount of meaningfulness. So if we take just, those last two responses, we get just under 75% of participants feeling that their life is quite meaningful. I also have here, along with my other charts, I also made a chart for gender and highest level of education received. So there were 11 participants, 8 being male, 3 being, or yes, 11, 8 being male, 3 being female. And then we had one who had a high school diploma, and then another one who had just some college. So taking my two variables, which again were the how your satisfaction of personal relationships and your you know how you feel about your life being meaningful. Again, I ran the chi-square test. So in my SPSS output, my Pearson chi-square value, which was my test statistic, was 13.750. And then my p-value, so my overall significance, which is the number that I'm looking for to find a relationship of my chi-square test, was 0.317. So what this means is that there was no statistically significant correlation or relationship between my two variables that I selected. And this is because that p-value, in order for there to be a statistically significant relationship, that p-value needs to be less than 0.05. And as we see here, mine was not. So kind of to my surprise, there wasn't a relationship, or not a statistically significant one, between my two variables. However, going back to my program goal, though, if we kind of look, at those numbers that I was talking about, so we had 72.8% of participants found their life to be very or extremely meaningful, while 54.6% found neither satisfaction or dissatisfaction, or felt very dissatisfied or just dissatisfied in their personal relationships. So overall, what I gathered from this, which was a little surprising to me, is that the participants from this study or this evaluation seem to achieve feeling that they have a meaningful life without having great satisfaction with their personal relationships. So what can be implied, again, going back to my program goal, was that this could correlate with feelings of self-sufficiency and not needing to depend on others. So it could be implied that feeling independent and maybe in control of one's life brings about more meaning than having satisfaction in personal relationships with this group that was in this study. Now, we know, of course, that social relationships and family relationships are important, but particularly in this group, it seems that really being able to, those relationships did not have as much impact on whether or not they felt their life to be meaningful. Could be implied then that, feeling more that they could depend on themselves, and they'd achieve self-sufficiency could be more satisfying and meaningful. So overall, for my conclusion is that the Hope House is meeting their goal of helping clients to achieve self-sufficiency. And, kind of something that, as I was just saying, that was just kind of surprising to me is that, I kind of went into this with, kind of like almost an eye roll, like I said, like a duh, that my hypothesis was going to be right. I thought I specifically chose one that would show that there was a correlation in a relationship in my two variables. But I didn't. So it was just, it was just kind of eye-opening about how even with, my kind of my own biases, if you want to call them that, or even my own opinions of stuff, going into this evaluation, how, how wrong I was. Thank you for looking at my presentation, and best of luck to everybody after the semester.